In Mexico, a strong heat wave hits the nation's northern region, leaving 9 dead so far. In Russia, President Vladimir Putin met with a delegation of African heads of states to address peace in the Ukrainian conflict. Iran and Saudi Arabia called for sustainable cooperation and agreed to form joint economic and political committees. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Saturday, Mexican health authorities reported that the current heat wave affecting the country's north has claimed the lives of 9 people. Tamaulipas Health Secretary Vicente Hernandez reported that the 9th death was a man who suffered a heat stroke while working. On the other hand, local media reported that multiple institutions have canceled classes due to the lack of air conditioning service, while several basic services have been failing due to the high temperatures. The head of the Meteorology Department, Jessica Luna Lagunes, explained that June became the hottest month of 2023. Luna also said this heat wave surpassed the previous historical record of June 1998 at 43.5 degrees Celsius. In Argentina, the National Meteorological Service warns provinces affected by low temperatures. The health ministry provided recommendations for children and people over 65 years old or with chronic illnesses to overcome this polar wave, as very low temperatures can be very harmful. Likewise, the Meteorological Service reports that the 7 affected provinces, such as Salta, Jujuy, Formosa, Chaco, San Luis, San Juan, and La Rioja, have temperatures ranging from -3 to -6.2 degrees Celsius. In Brazil, at least 3 people lost their lives as a result of the storms and floods affecting the south of the country after a heavy extratropical hurricane. According to authorities in Rio Grande do Sul state, 2 of the dead were reported in the city of São Leopoldo and 1 in Maquine, in the coast of the state. On the other hand, they added that about 12 people are still missing. Efforts are still underway to search and rescue those people and save others who may still be isolated due to the floods. Several roads remain blocked, flights to major cities in the state were cancelled throughout the day, while electric problems persist across the state. Extratropical hurricanes are a type of weather system that most frequently occur in high and mid latitudes. And Brazilian President Luis Inácio da Silva inaugurated the Rio Verde terminal in the Goiás state. The ceremony marked the conclusion of the construction of works of the North-South Railroad initiated 35 years ago. The railroad represented a major connection in the backbone of Brazil's rail network as it links together the ports of Itaqui, Maranhão to that of Santos and São Paulo. The construction project began late in the 1980s and it stretches for more than 2,000 kilometers. It connects Goiás, Mato Grosso, and Minas Gerais with strong production of commodities such as soy, corn, and cotton.
This railway will be extremely important to transport the products that are produced in the state of Goiás.
President Lula da Silva stressed that 90% of the railway project was built during his government and that of former President Dilma Rousseff.
I want to tell you that in my government and in Dilma's government, we built 90% of this railway. If it had been up to the Lula and Dilma governments, this railway would have been inaugurated a long time ago. And I worked hard. I went many times to this railway to build sections and inaugurate sections. And I'm happy to return to the presidency of the Republic, and during my term, we will finally inaugurate the North-South Railway, which began in 1987.
In Colombia, dissidents from the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia's People's Army requested to resume the bilateral ceasefire with the Colombian government called off by President Gustavo Petro after the murder of 4 miners from Bogota. Hernan Tobar with the details.
The so-called dissidents of the FARC's Joint Chiefs of Staff announced in a communique their request to the Colombian government to resume the bilateral ceasefire at the national level, called on May 23rd in the departments of Caqueta, Guaviare, Putumayo, and Meta. After the murder of 4 minors from the indigenous communities of Putumayo, where members of this armed group are believed to be involved.
In Colombia, we have laws to provide special protection to native populations on the brink of extinction. FARC dissidents must understand that one thing is our government's commitment to making every effort for peace, as we do here in Congress every day, and something else is not having clear boundaries. Children belong with their parents, not in the war.
The dissidents ensure that this process will work as long as this situation is reestablished because they understand that war brings permanent consequences for the parties in conflict, and preventing it undoubtedly brings peace of mind for the communities. But what do the members of the indigenous communities in Colombia, whose territories have been the hardest hit by the war and the conflict? There are countless deaths. Day after day, we have suffered the murder of 3 people 8 days ago throughout the entire safeguard by the dissidents, and what everyone aspired to is to live quietly and in peace. So for us, it is a great joy that the dissidents have expressed this, that they want to make a bilateral ceasefire, and it is the most convenient thing for the country because we support this government thinking about the peace that can be achieved. Recently, the prosecutor office announced that it was lifting arrest warrant for 19 members of this armed group to move forward in talks with the Colombian government and establish a formal negotiating table. Meanwhile, representatives of the indigenous communities in Congress demanded commitment and responsibility from the dissidents. I cannot say it is a bad thing. Peace is always welcome, and that the FARC dissident has sent this communique, we hope it is real. We hope for the will, because the dissidents cannot continue on one hand pretending to respect the will shown by President Petro, and then on the other continue killing people. So who are they agreeing with? And I have drawn attention to this, and I have been critical in this scenario. To de-escalate the conflict in the territories is an urgent matter. The indigenous communities believe that it must go hand in hand with humanitarian aid. Meanwhile, the armed groups say that its delegates are ready to deploy and support the verification process, and ask the government not to close off the possibilities of dialogue and to accept the truce proposal.
Hernán Darío Tobar Gaitán, TeleSUR, Bogotá, Colombia.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us.
The life is full of moments. Moments of fight.
Welcome back from the South. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres congratulates Petro's government for its efforts in peace talks. On Friday, the High Diplomat gave his approval to the agreements reached in Havana on the bilateral ceasefire with the National Liberation Army. Guterres also said to be confident that the parties will work together in good faith with their commitments and determination to fulfill their agreed ceasefire obligations. In this regard, the signatory countries of this dialogue recognize the joint work of Colombia and its allies in the search for a total peace in this third round of talks. On Saturday in Spain, the Conservative Popular Party took office in 31 provincial capitals, ratifying its strong position for the upcoming general elections next July the 23rd. PP Secretary General Cuca Gamarra told reporters that this is the first stage of the change of a political cycle started last May the 28th, which has not ended. Gamarra said she is hopeful about PP leader Alberto Núñez Feijóo becoming the next prime minister. Meanwhile, Socialist Party spokesperson and candidate by the Zaragoza Congress, Pilar Alegría, deplored that Núñez Feijóo failed to his word by, in her words, throwing himself into the arms of Vox and endorsing the most backward policies of the far right, just to prevent PSOE candidates from winning. The International Energy Agency forecasts a shortage of oil as demand increases over the next few years. The France-based agency explained in its most recent market report that global demand will reach up to 102.3 million barrels per day and up to 105.7 million barrels by 2028, mainly driven by growth in industrialized nations and momentum in the petrochemical and aviation sectors. The International Energy Agency expects, however, an increase in exploration and production investments to levels similar to those of 2015. On Saturday, French police repressed demonstrators seeking to stop the construction of a new high-speed rail line between France and neighboring Italy, which opponents say will destroy the fragile alpine environment. Some 5,000 demonstrators, according to organizers, turned out for the protest near the town of Saint-Rémy-de-Maurienne in southeastern France, defying an official ban on the rally. Protesters claimed that police used tear gas and reacted violently to the mobilization. Protesters also blocked the nearby rail line, although train traffic had been halted due to the situation. The new line, which is supported by the European Union, will link the French city of Lyon with the Italian city of Turin via a 57.5-kilometer tunnel through the Alps at an estimated cost of more than $28 billion. Detractors say ecological damage risks are devastating and springs are already beginning to dry up. Thousands gathered in the streets of Warsaw on Saturday in Poland for what they call the Parade of Equality in support of LGBTQ+ rights. The mobilization called for LGBTQ+ equality in a context where the members of this community are looking forward to the upcoming Polish elections in which their rights could play a prominent role. The conservative Nationalist Law and Justice Party that governs the country has focused in previous campaigns on opposing what it calls LGBTQ ideology. On the verge of November elections, activists are hoping that one of the campaign issues will be gay marriage or the teaching of LGBTQ issues in schools to mobilize socially conservative voters. Alicia Herda, one of the organizers of the march, expressed they are a very strong community and it will not be easy to stop them from showing their pride. On Saturday, Russian President Vladimir Putin met with a delegation of African heads of states in St. Petersburg at the Konstantinovsky Palace. The delegation of African presidents had previously traveled to Kiev. They intend to mediate in the ongoing conflict with Ukraine prior to this encounter in Moscow on June 5th. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa had met in Johannesburg with the presidents of Egypt, Senegal, Uganda, Zambia, and Comoros to agree on a peace proposal to present to both Ukraine and Russia. At a meeting in St. Petersburg, Putin said Russia is in favor of further strengthening relations with African countries as a priority of its foreign policy agenda, without any interference in internal affairs, and that Russia appreciates Africa's efforts for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The Russian Defense Ministry reported a missile attack against one of Ukraine's armed forces' decision-making centers. According to Defense Ministry spokesman Igor Konashenkov, the attack was carried out with long-range sea and air-based precision weapons. The Russian defense did not specify the target's location, while Ukrainian authorities denounced an attack against its capital, during which 12 missiles were destroyed. The Russian army had previously reported on the possibility of attacking decision-making centers in Ukraine shortly after Kiev carried out a drone attack in Moscow, in which several residential buildings were damaged and 2 people were slightly injured. TeleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat, dial 461 and enjoy Latin American alternative broadcasts. One final short break, we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back from the south. Russia's largest oil producer, Rosneft, and China's National Petroleum Corporation made the decision to stop using the United States dollar and switch to paying for supplies in rubles and yuan. The chief executive officers from Rosneft and CNPC, Igor Sechin and Dai Hulian, respectively, made the announcement within the framework of the 26th St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. They added that with the implementation of payments in national currencies, the companies will cease to conduct trade under the US dollar. Meanwhile, both CEOs discussed the prospects for joint oil extraction projects as well as cooperation in the technological sphere. According to Rosneft's statement, the two companies signed agreements for the supply of 40 million tons of oil per year. Iran and Saudi Arabia called for sustainable cooperation and agreed to form joint economic and political committees. Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir-Abdollahian held a meeting with his Saudi Arabian counterpart, Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud, at the Persian Foreign Ministry. During the meeting, the parties discussed various issues of common interest. They later held a joint press conference in which the Iranian Foreign Minister expressed his gratitude to his Saudi counterpart for his visit to the country at almost 100 days after the agreement reached in March to resume bilateral relations. In their talks, the foreign ministers agreed on the establishment of joint political, border, economic, and anti-narcotics committees, including environmental cooperation.
Our negotiations were focused on the lasting economic cooperation, trade and common investment, including progress in the private sector of Iran and Saudi Arabia. Work is currently underway to resume the activities of diplomatic and consular missions in both countries. We have witnessed the opening of the Iranian embassy in Riyadh and consulate in Jeddah, soon to be followed by the opening of the Saudi embassy in Tehran.
And in the context of Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan's landmark visit to Tehran, the Saudi top official held talks with Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi. During the meeting, Prince Faisal handed the Iranian President an invitation from custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman, to visit Saudi Arabia. The two sides also reviewed the bilateral relations and ways to enhance and develop them in various fields to achieve the prospects of the two countries' people. Prince Faisal and Raisi also discussed the developments on the regional and international arenas and the efforts made in this regard. Uganda's military said on Saturday that militants linked to the Islamic State group massacred at least 40 people and abducted 6 others in western Uganda. The police and army blamed the Allied Democratic Forces, which they describe as one of the deadliest militias on the eastern border of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Joy Walusimbi, Resident Commissioner of Kasese District, where the attack took place, said at least 25 of the dead were students at his school. It is the deadliest attack in Uganda since 2 bombings in Kampala in 2010 killed 76 people in an attack claimed by the Somalia-based Al-Shabaab group. Meanwhile, Felix Kulayigi, a spokesman for the Ugandan People's Defense Forces, said that authorities launched a manhunt for the perpetrators to rescue the abducted students.
Because this morning we were informed that a terrorist group attacked a school, a secondary school in Mpondwe, near the border with DRC. The boys' dormitory had been locked. The boys locked the dormitory, their dormitory, and they were in the dormitory. So this terrorist group couldn't enter. So they threw in a bomb. They threw in a petrol bomb. So these children were burnt completely. Now, the girls, on the other hand, opened the door and tried to run out. And this evil group got them and killed them with pangas.
We have come to the end of this news briefing, and you can find these and many other stories on our website, TeleSUREnglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.